right, so welcome everyone. I'm Janet Barlow and I'm the Executive Director of Hike Nova Scotia. And thank you for joining us for our second Fireside Chat. And for tonight's Fireside Chat, our guests are a team known as the Accessible Adventurers, also known as Osmond and Kevin Penny. And before we introduce them and our host, we have a few housekeeping items. So it'll be about an hour long. You will all be muted throughout to cut down on background noise. If you're having technical problems, please see the troubleshooting link in your confirmation email. Also try the settings icon. And then you can also call in if you're having problems with audio, but note that those are not toll-free numbers that are given in your confirmation email. And we will save questions until the end. And you'll want to type your question into the chat box, and you can find that on your taskbar. And so if we don't have a whole lot more folks who join us, then we actually may be able to unmute you, Heather, and others, and maybe you could ask a question live. So we'll monitor that situation. So before we get started, I just wanted to tell you a bit about Hike Nova Scotia for those of you who aren't familiar with it. So we're a nonprofit provincial organization, and we're just trying to build a culture of hiking in the province. So we strive to be the voice for those who hike, walk, and snowshoe. So we don't build or own or maintain trails. There's lots of groups that do that. We're more about hiking promotion, education, and encouraging people just to get out on the trails. And we do this in a number of ways. We have our fall and winter guided hike series. We have our hiking summit each spring. We offer a number of in-person skill building courses like navigation, how to be a hike leader, reconnecting kids with nature. And we're now doing webinars like Intro to Hiking, Leave No Trace, and then these Fireside Chats. We also promote the International Appalachian Trail, which runs through Nova Scotia, and we have the Hiker Challenge, where you complete certain hiking challenges in order to earn badges and notoriety. We are member-based, and if you become a paid member, you get lots of perks and discounts. We also have a website and social media that are great sources for hiking and trail information, as well as events. And we are supported in part by the Nova Scotia Department of Communities, Culture, and Heritage. So now to get on with the chat. And I will stop sharing at this point. So Hike Nova Scotia has started this new series of virtual fireside chats with people who have interesting hike experiences and stories to share. We ask folks to join us around the virtual fire for these informal chats to learn more about fascinating people and how they make their hiking part of their lives, often in unique ways or places. So my role is just on the technical side to help make things run smoothly. And the host of our chats is Jonathan Riley. Jonathan sits on the board of Hike Nova Scotia as vice president and is a former journalist. He's currently the Trail and Open Spaces Coordinator with the municipality of the District of Digby. He is also a key organizer and founder of the Fundy Erratics hiking group based out of the Digby area. So I'll hand it over to Jonathan to introduce Kevin and Dee, and they'll have a chat.
Thanks, Janet. I really want to welcome Kevin and Dee. I'm excited to talk with them tonight, particularly following them on Instagram and YouTube. What I love about their feeds is they're out there exploring Nova Scotia and sharing the joy and sometimes the challenges, but a lot of joy. And I love to check in on what they've been up to and see the smiles. And so tonight we're going to talk a little bit about how that all came to be. Thanks to COVID, they've actually had to explore a lot of Nova Scotia, and that's been really interesting to watch them do that. Kevin and Dee, how are you guys today?
We're doing well, thanks. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, this is exciting. We're doing well.
So the first question I usually ask is, were you hiking today or recently, and where'd you go?
Well, the weather didn't allow me to hike today, and unfortunately I was working, or fortunately, I guess, whatever way you want to put it. But was it yesterday, Dee? Or the day before?
That was yesterday after work.
Yeah.
We went for a stroll on the Halifax waterfront after work. So it was a nice way to kind of decompress and end our work day before we head home to do some Zoom meetings and make dinner.
And a couple of days before that, we did a bit of the chain of lakes trails, which is really close to our house. It's a little multi-use trail that goes from Ashburn Golf Course just off in the west end of Halifax all the way up to Bayers Lake. So it's a nice smooth trail that we've often gone on before. Good for my chair, smooth, nice scenery. So yeah.
Mhm.
And the Halifax waterfront's like that now too. I was going to say, I may have made some jokes earlier about living in Halifax where you two live, but that certainly is a bonus, that beautiful waterfront and the work they've done. Has that helped you guys get around down there?
Oh yeah, the improvements in the accessibility have been so much improved. And
Yeah, like I've only lived in Halifax since 2008. So Kevin tells me, because he's lived in Halifax his whole life, about the waterfront when it wasn't what it is now. And it's so hard to believe that it wasn't how it is now, I guess.
it was so industrial, and now they, with cruise ships coming in and really funding tourism, that's really helped improve the waterfront experience and accessible. It's a great accessible thing because it's flat. It's not very hilly. You can go quite a distance. There's shops all along the way. So, and you're right next to the ocean. So us both being sailors as well, it's nice to saunter along, like Dee said, decompress after a long day at work and just in our backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I want to back up a little bit. You guys describe yourselves as an interabled couple, and that word interabled might be new to Heather or other listeners later. What does interabled mean? Or what does it mean to be an interabled couple?
Yeah, so being an interabled couple, it's basically a term that is used in the community, and it's to describe a couple where one person has a disability and the other does not. So Kevin has a spinal cord injury and uses a power wheelchair, and I'm able-bodied, hence why we coin ourselves as an interabled couple.
I think
it's
especially
an easier way to describe it than having to, if we were just trying to explain in like a short paragraph who we are, it can sometimes turn into a long story where you're like, well, you know, I'm able-bodied, my partner uses a wheelchair, and so an interabled couple kind of just encompasses that nicely for us.
But we're a couple, that's our, we're just a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think especially on the word couple.
We're just a couple, but yeah, the interabled term is something that's being used, I think, more commonly now, and we really like the term.
Because I watching some of your videos, you made the point and made it clear that some people misunderstand and think that Dee, you're a caregiver or a nurse, but you two are a couple, a partnership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's a misconception that some people have, is that a lot of people assume that I met Kevin being his caregiver, which is not the case. We met through adaptive sailing. But it's interesting just to see kind of where people's mind go, like that people assume that either I'm a family member or a caregiver and not a partner. Yeah.
And I think the misconceptions are out there, but I have a team of staff that help me out for the times I need it, and then we can find that into our everyday schedule or routine, and we make it work for us.
For sure.
Just like anybody else does in their day-to-day routine. We just do it a little bit differently, and different types of support. And yeah, sometimes Dee has to chip in, but it's not all or nothing with Dee. I should you know what I mean? That's what is the strength of our relationship. And we can still maintain a regular couples relationship without having to put care or personal care mixed in there. And so, yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. And I don't want to spend all night on the interabled bit or the injury. I want to get to the hiking and the adventure and the fun, but maybe we should just talk really quickly about what happened and then how you guys met.
Sure.
Okay, I'll go first. I'll tackle the question about how it happened because I was there. And then maybe Dee can talk about how we met. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Dee? So back in 1991, actually it'll be 29 years Sunday. The Sunday coming up is my quadriversary, as I like to call it. But I was on a bicycle built for two with my sister, and we were going down a hill on the bicycle built for two. I lost the brakes on the bike and swerved to miss a car in an oncoming intersection, and unfortunately went headfirst into a ditch, being on the front of the bike. Not wearing a helmet back then, not big on helmets. 1991, it doesn't seem like that long ago, but helmets were not a thing really. They weren't cool, at least, like they are now. Yeah. And I suffered a C4 complete spinal cord injury, which means I was paralyzed instantly from the chest down.
So, and you've been living with that for 30 years.
Almost 30 years, yeah. So Yeah, so yeah, I've done really well and continue to do well. I forged on and finished high school, went to university. I'm employed full time, which is great, and health wise, I'm really good. I got a good support team. So yeah, I'm doing well after 29 years.
And then, so how did you guys meet?
Yeah, so we met. So I was a sailing instructor back in 2013, and I'd been working at various different kind of programs in the HRM, and I saw this job opportunity at an organization called Sail Able, which is a sailing club for people with disabilities in Halifax. And so I had no experience whatsoever, and I applied for the job. And that's how I met Kevin, because he was involved with the organization as the co-chair at the time. And so we became great friends and really connected kind of on the sailboat, I guess, because at that time Kevin was preparing for the national championships. And so I was heavily involved in providing a lot of coaching for that.
Let's be honest, she taught me how to sail. I was just floating around in a boat before trying to get to one point. She has the expertise and took the time, and the special adapted equipment I use, really took an interest in that and thought it was cool. So yeah, we really met on the sailboat, I think.
And then what we should talk about when we started dating, because we had like the worst experience at the beginning of our relationship, which outdoorsy people might be able to relate to.
I was just about to say how much I always love hearing these how we met stories. So this is awesome.
Yeah. So we became great friends. And then in the fall of 2014, we started dating. And literally, as we were kind of starting dating, whatever, the National Sailing Regatta was being held in Alberta in Kananaskis in the first week of September. And so we were warned that it could be a little chilly at nighttime. So we definitely packed like mittens and hats and stuff like that. Anyway, we get there, and the first day they have practice races to get used to the boat. And we go down, and literally that day it snowed, and it didn't stop snowing.
3 days straight, the whole
regatta.
Snow.
And we were not prepared, and the boats, everything in the boat froze. So Kevin got in this boat with the seat being all frozen. I had to like thaw the ropes. Anyway, we went out for the practice race, and Kevin got hypothermia. And because and how I found out was I'm not allowed to talk to him while we're racing. And because I can't, so like I'm only there to provide assistance, like if something goes wrong in an emergency, or if there's like something that needs adjustment that requires someone with hands that work. So I was sitting in the back of the boat, and then Kevin just starts sailing completely the wrong direction. And after a certain point, I thought, wow, I really should chip in and say something and make sure everything's okay. Anyway, it turned out he had hypothermia. And
I remember very little of this. I remember myself. It's kind of like probably hikers when they go hiking, if they're dehydrated or go somewhere cold, and your mind just kind of starts slowly shutting down. You know where you are. But then I remember getting rushed up to the docks and pushing me 2 kilometers from where the regatta was up to where we were all staying, because it was at a lodge, I guess.
Yeah, in the middle of nowhere with no cell signal.
So that trip was where we met. So we got to know each other really well, because we didn't do much sailing, and we got a lot of socializing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So there you go.
She had to warm me up.
So good luck that the weather was bad.
Yeah.
All right. So we invited you here tonight at Hike Nova Scotia because of the hiking you've been doing. So what kind of role does hiking play in your lives?
Well, when we started our YouTube channel about a year ago, we were always looking for new ideas to explore. It wasn't really Nova Scotia then, it was whatever we did. And we really looked at accessibility, but we would always go for walks in like Shuby Park or down in Point Pleasant Park, and the regular common use trails, which are very easily accessible and easy to get to. And that was fine. But then I guess a few years ago, when we went to Cape Breton for a trip, a little camping trip in Shetty Camp, that's when we first did the Skyline Trail.
Yeah, I have a photo of that here. You want to see it?
Yeah.
So we hiked the Skyline Trail back in 2017 and really fell in love. I mean, it was difficult at some points, but we really fell in love with being outdoors, being sailors. We like being outdoors as well. And it just gave us a whole different perspective. And it's easy to go hiking for us. There's not a lot of prep work like sailing or other things we can just go somewhere, get out of our vehicle and go on our way. So there's a nice picture of us in 2017. I think it was around late August, early September.
Yeah, it was a chilly day.
But we made it through to the end of the Skyline Trail, and this is one of our pictures once we made it in. And
maybe if Heather's listening, she can't actually see it. Maybe you could describe what's.
okay,
Sure.
Go ahead, Dee.
Yeah, so the photo is Kevin and I and my parents' golden retrievers with us. And Kevin has a blanket on his lap, and we're on kind of a platform at the lookoff, and you can see like, I guess, the hills and the Cabot Trail kind of in the bottom. And that's one of the cool viewing platforms that they have before you get to the kind of final viewing area, I guess. So that was our first hike together. And that's how we kind of got the bug of hiking.
What I love about that photo, as I said in the intro, is you can see the joy that you guys are having a good time.
Yeah.
Well,
also,
to be honest, Jonathan, these opportunities weren't available to me for so many years. Like these opportunities to do the Skyline Trail, even I don't know how long it's been around, but they've made huge accessibility improvements just to make it so I can get there. Because if you guys have done that trail before, there's some sketchy spots, but they've done a really good job maintaining the actual trail. So that really, like Dee said, gave us the bug to look at more places and kind of explore more areas. And we're just at the beginning of it. Like you said, we're really open. We've done Victoria Park, which we love a lot, down in Truro. Get to the waterfall.
What's so great about Victoria Park?
Why don't you take that one, Dee?
Yeah, it's just I find Victoria Park is just a special spot. It's like this little hidden gem in Truro, and I don't mean to offend anyone from Truro, but Truro was never really a place that I would consider driving to. It would be somewhere that I would stop for gas at when I was, continuing on to go skiing at Wentworth or something like that. But it's really quite an amazing park, and just like the trees and the river and the waterfalls are just so beautiful. And I think it's the only waterfalls that we've gone to see together. And that's kind of one of the things that we're curious about, kind of finding more about and trying some different ones. But that was the first time hike that we were able to do that. It was so beautiful because we were able to go all along the bottom, all the way to see the waterfall, which is kind of like this, famous spot. And we were able to get all the way there together. And it wasn't, because sometimes at the very end, I have to go ahead and, snap a couple pictures of the final view or the aha moment for Truro. It's like, okay, we get to see like right in the action.
And they've done a really good job with accessibility there. The platforms now where the waterfalls kind of do their magic. They've put really good platforms so people with mobility challenges, whether they're in a chair, might walk with a cane, or just elderly, can get really down close to the falls safely without having to climb stairs necessarily or go down a steep embankment. So it's really easy for everyone to get there. And we just explored some of the trails. I mean, there's so many more trails. Some are not great to go. And
yeah, we went up above the falls too, which was fun to get that different kind of perspective. So it's just like there's really something for everyone there. We
often don't know. We go somewhere, we don't know where we're going to end up. And that's part of the adventure, I think, for us.
Yeah.
We don't know necessarily how far we're going to get. We're exploring like everybody else. And finally, sometimes we have to throw in the towel and say, that's as far as we can go. Well, we made it that far, and we'll turn around and go back. So that's a lot of the fun of hiking for myself, is not knowing what's going to come up around the next corner.
Right. I think that's really general feeling for a lot of hikers and people who in the outdoors. And I welcome your comments, because one of our board members, Larry Anthony, looks after that park, and I'm sure he'll be glad to hear that the work they've done there is appreciated. Do you have some other favorite hikes in Nova Scotia? Some other places you've had fun?
Well, I mean, I really want to explore the Cape Breton Highlands National Park more. It feels like every time we go there, we're pressed for time because we're visiting people in Cape Breton. There's so much to see and do there, but I'd love to really kind of dig in and see where we can get to on all the different trails there. And that's I think that would be a really fun project, because we kind of, when we go there, we're like, okay, we have time for one hike or two hikes. And so we're like, okay, we got to do the Skyline because we know that one is worth it and we know we can do it. And it never gets old, but it'd be fun to kind of explore more around there.
And other parts of the province, like you said, Jonathan, there's, I hikes down in the South Shore, Digby area.
I've never been, well, I guess I went to Keji a long time ago, but we've never been to Keji together. So that would be a lot of fun. I know that they have the tents, like I forget what they call them, but they're like tents where, yeah, those. And they have an accessible one there. I know that they weren't open this year, but that would be something that would be really fun, is to kind of incorporate a real trip into it. So even if the hiking doesn't go super well, we'll still be able to have a wicked camping trip. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw videos of you were camping in your car.
Yeah.
The mosquito massacre of 2020.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, whew.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have an SUV, so that trip we decided, we had accommodations when we got to Cape Breton, but we decided to just book a campsite, and for COVID reasons as well, and for ease for us. And you just put down the back seat of the SUV. I stayed in my chair, tilted back. My chair can become quite cozy, and we just slept in the vehicle and got up the next morning and headed our way out. But the mosquitoes got the best of us that night.
That was a beach tour, and that's one of the things I really enjoy, is seeing that you guys are able to enjoy the beach. And yeah, how's that possible? Sand and a wheelchair. Normally, we don't think of that working.
Yeah, I have a picture. 1 second. Let's see.
So I can talk a little bit about that. But yeah, beaches, I mean, we have so many nice beaches here in Nova Scotia. And that was really our hobby a lot last year, wouldn't you say, Dee? We really started exploring beaches because more beaches were becoming accessible. Like this picture here is at Inverness Beach, which 2 years ago they got a grant and really put things forward and made the whole beach more accessible. So you can see these mats. So you can imagine a power wheelchair is difficult to get over sandy surfaces. So these mats are great. So these mats get laid down. They're not just for people in wheelchairs. Everyone can use them, but you can get right down close to the water. They have beach wheelchairs that you can borrow to go in the water. So I've been in a floating beach wheelchair, and more and more of these are popping up across the province at lakes and different bigger beaches. So it's a lot of fun because as sailors, again, we love the ocean. I love the water, the salt air. So it's just becoming possible now. So it's really exciting where accessibility is going in the realm of recreation.
And that is a beautiful beach. Inverness, just an amazing beach, and to see that, yeah, you can use it. And the municipality of Digby that I work for, we have a recreational property that we're in the process of developing. And this is exciting for me, that maybe I just assumed that we would maybe get people to look at the beach, but to actually be able to get people on the beach, that to me seems
it makes such a difference. Like
in the past, when we'd go to the beach, I'd be there might be a boardwalk that gets you down to not even close to the water, and I'd be up on the boardwalk. Dee would walk down to the water. We can't enjoy the full beach experience, so we really
it's weird. Like I wouldn't want to lay down my towel in the middle of the walkway on the boardwalk. So then sometimes I'm down a flight of stairs laying on the sand. I'm like, honey, how are you doing? Do you want a drink?
So we can enjoy the beach together and with our friends.
Yeah, for sure.
Can we talk about some of the challenges you face on trails and
Absolutely.
how you conquer them or get around them or face them?
I have an image I want to share before we talk, and I will describe it for you, Heather. Oh shoot, just 1 second here. I got hasty on the screen sharing.
You're gonna like this one, Jonathan.
Okay.
This is our challenge on trails.
Where is it? In Burnt Head Cove, was it?
Yeah, this is Burnt Coat Head Park. And
In
Provincial
April.
Park in April, yeah. Or March, I think. I think it was before everything shut down. We were like, let's explore. And then they were like, no, stay home. So this was like literally a few days before that happened. But this is a gate that's to stop cars from accessing the parking lot at the Provincial Park. However, there's still lots of people going hiking and using the park in all times of the year and all times of the day, I guess. And this gate spans the full width of the gravel, I guess, entrance to the park. And for anyone that's hiking, you can just kind of walk around, step in the ditch for a minute. Duck underneath. Yeah, I guess I forgot about that. That's an option too. You can duck underneath or climb on top.
But if you're us, you have to limbo it.
Yes.
So we can describe that picture to Heather, I think, because it's important.
Yeah, so this picture is there's a gate across, and it's kind of, you're looking from one end of the gate, and half of Kevin is on one side of the gate and the other half is on the other. And so what we did there is we maneuvered your chair so his chair can tilt, so he can kind of either be laying down or sitting up kind of. And so you got to get the first half the chair under sitting upright, and then you got to lean all the way back to get the top half under the gate. But that's often not the case. This happened to be a gate that was a little taller than most, so we were able to make it work. But honestly, this is probably our number one barrier to even trying trails, is these types of gates that don't have anywhere on the sides to get around.
And it actually, similar situation happened when we were in Cape Breton just in August, because we were planning on doing another trail. And when we pulled up to the trail, obviously they don't want cars driving up the trail. I think it was called the
Le Vieux Chemin de Cap Rouge, it's called.
Yeah. So there was a gate across, so we couldn't even get into the trail. So we actually went back to Shetty Camp and spoke to the tourist bureau to see if they could actually open that up for us, which they were willing to do. But that's not always convenient. We had to work on their time. Yeah. But if there was a pedestrian pathway to get around, just so you could get around safely enough, I mean, you only need a few feet.
And I've seen, like, there's a few that are great design where it's like there's two sides, like there's two gates and they meet in the middle, but then there's a gap that's like the width of a door frame, so like 32 inches or 36 inches, that any chair can get through, but vehicles can't fit through. So those
designs are better,
but they're very rare to see.
But it's a simple thing. You think, okay, yeah, it's just something so simple, but it can ruin your whole hiking adventure if you can't get into where you want to hike.
Right.
So that would be one barrier. I think another barrier that's pretty common for us, which we've ran into a few times, is uneven terrain on the trails, roots, rocks sticking up, loose edges, steep cliffs the trails aren't very wide. So we have to be careful with those. I mean, everyone has to be careful. I think you mentioned it once, Jonathan, too, that like roots are an issue for all hikers, because you can twist an ankle, split a knee, fall down, whatever could happen. So those would be our biggest trail barriers, I would think.
I think so, for sure. Like, it's like on the hierarchy, like the gate is the most frustrating because someone put that gate there. The other parts, we can blame nature, which is a lot less infuriating. But yeah, definitely the roots and kind of those things, because a lot of times, like, the trails are rated on an easy, like medium or a difficult scale. But when something is easy, it's very difficult to know what that means. Is it like easy in that it's a short trail, but with steps or roots or, you know, mud? Or is it a paved path, you know?
It'd be really nice to know that information if there was some type of guide for persons who might use mobility aids to get there, so they kind of have a better idea. And I've seen this in national parks before. Some of them when they slap the accessibility sticker on and say it's accessible, there's certain guidelines or standards that they have to meet in order to get that sticker. Mind you, it might not be all or nothing, but even if there was a range, like, okay, you might encounter some inclines. Yeah. And you can talk about our experience in Utah, because that's a great example.
Yeah, in March. Yeah, sorry.
I just want to say, I think this applies for all hikers. Just having the information to make an informed decision.
Exactly.
And so Janet said, I'm a leader with the Fundy Radix Hiking Club here in Digby, and quite honestly, we get a lot of elderly, and it's really important to them that we be clear about, on this hike, you're going to have to be able to lift your feet or climb similar to climbing in a stadium, or
exactly.
on this hike, you won't have to. So it opens the door for more people to join. And just I think generally, the more information that we can provide hikers, then the better it is for everyone. So you know,
I think the more likely people are to, if the more information they have before they leave their house, the more likely they are to venture out and try trails. Like, for example, you know, parents with a stroller, that information would be helpful to them. You know, people with young children, if there were steep drop-offs, or, you know, like those types of information could be helpful for anybody, really. And like you said,
and people would, I think, where I'm a person with a disability, I can give this perspective too, because I know that can cause a lot of anxiety if you don't know what for some people, I mean, in myself, we wouldn't want to drive all the way to Yarmouth to check out a trail, spend 6 hours in driving there and back, and get there and be able to go 200 meters. That's kind of discounting, but the anxiety of leading up to know what you're kind of getting yourself into, like it really makes a huge difference. And more people, I know more people will be apt to go out, like he said, giving more information. I don't think it's hard to do. I don't think it's hard to do. I think the hikers themselves can provide feedback on the trails. People hiking it, they could share their feedback in some type of platform, maybe. I know it doesn't have to be complicated. It could be interactive. There's lots of ideas.
Yeah, and like for example, sometimes when we want to do a specific hike, like I'll use the All Trails app, and sometimes in that, like even that can be helpful. That has some photos, people leave reviews of the trail, and so even sometimes that kind of searching out information can be helpful. But it would be nice if it was kind of in a certain place that you could know where to look for.
I think it would be a good grant project that you could get someone to review these hikes, and then like a really good grant student that could have really a passion to go and search that information out and then bring it back to either Hike Nova Scotia or whoever. I mean, it doesn't matter who starts the initiative. It's just be something that would give people more information, more informed choice.
Nova Scotia Trails is starting an initiative to try to be the resource for trails in the province. So that's Trails Nova Scotia or Nova Scotia Trails, and maybe Janet will flash up the link. But a lot of the areas have it. Like I'm not sure what it's called in Halifax. Down here, it's called Valley Connect, and in up around Pictou, I think it's called Highlands Connect. So these connect pages have like, and I think you can go to Nova Scotia Trails, and they have it based there. And probably the link is on the Hike Nova Scotia page as well. Oh yeah, there it is, NovaScotiaTrails.com.
Awesome.
And this is kind of the information that we're trying to encourage all the people who enter descriptions in to include. You were going to tell a story about, was it Utah?
Yeah. So in early March, we did a little vacation. Well, I guess late February, early March. We went to Las Vegas and we did a couple day trips. And one of the day trips we went to Utah to Zion National Park. And they had 2 accessible trails there that were well marked in the map and online. So we were able to get in and easily access those trails. And one of the trails, we got probably halfway down the trail and they actually had a sign right on the trail that said, caution, slope exceeds whatever grade ahead. Wheelchair use is not recommended. Please proceed at your own caution. And just kind of having that out there was very helpful to know, because, you know, then you can make that informed decision of, okay, do you want to do this? It's not saying wheelchair is not permitted beyond this point, but just having that out there so that people can, you know, make those choices themselves based on what their own abilities are.
And I was in a manual wheelchair, just to let you know, and Dee pushed me through that trail because when we were there, we couldn't get my power chair to Utah easily. But even when we went over that rough terrain, there were some spots that were tricky, but people were very friendly and offering assistance if you needed a little boost or if you started sliding because the trail was sandy or the boardwalk was sandy. So, but that was really a nice, I've never seen that before on any trail. So it really caught us and thought that was a really neat idea.
You drive yourself, Kevin. Maybe you can explain how that works.
Okay, so yeah. So I use a power wheelchair, and because I'm paralyzed from the chest down, it really minimizes the ability for me to drive with traditional driving controls like a joystick for a wheelchair or whatnot. So I have what are called head controls. So on my head, you can kind of see in the camera there a bit, but I have sensory pads, one on each side of my head and one on the back of my head on this headrest. And through programming and stuff like that, I can hit it to different modes. And if I want to go forward, I just have to hold my head back against one sensor and that will shoot me forward or reverse depending on what mode I'm in. And then the pads on the left and right, I just tap those and that will make my chair go left or right depending on how much pressure I can put on. And then it's kind of like if I put pressure on the back pad and the side pad at the same time, it'll make a gradual turn. So through all those movements, just 3 switches, I'm able to independently move around, as you can probably see on some of our videos, quite well.
Yeah, and I think I haven't actually seen you negotiate routes, but I think you mentioned in one of the videos that you're pretty confident on some slightly rougher terrain.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like we do a lot of off-roading on
Yeah,
grass
see
and
if I can
stuff
get a
like that.
picture.
Dee might have a good picture. I'll talk while she looks for a picture. But yeah, it's I've had the same type of chair for almost 10 years now. I'm actually getting a new chair very soon, but there's a picture.
Whoops, I just got a screen share.
But
Your new chair.
yeah, my new chair. But I'm fairly confident to know what my chair can do and what it can't do. And sometimes we get in sticky situations where I'll get stuck in mud or dry soil or loose dirt. But I mean, this picture kind of shows a bit. You can't really see. I don't know if you can even zoom in
I
on
know,
that
it's
picture.
hard to see.
But when you
Where
go
is it?
for this is where Dee.
This is
Keep
Corny Brook
Corny Brook
in
and Shetty
in
the
near
Highlands.
in the Cape Breton Highlands near Shetty Camp, and this was a trail that we weren't able to complete because the terrain was very challenging. This photo does not do it justice.
Well, you can see we have my gimbal on there, so I do some of the recording for our Accessible Adventures channel. So we hook a gimbal with our camera, so the bumpy paths don't look so bumpy, so people don't get seasick when we're showing some of our videos. But you can kind of see ahead. There's some roots and rocks that we navigate, and I try to navigate as much as I can, like anyone else would, going off to the side of it. But this was an interesting one because there was a waterfall at the end. We thought we were going to make it to the end. We probably got 2/3 of the way in, and the terrain and the roots just got way too bad. Like it would have been dangerous. And we were the only ones on the trail. We left early in the morning to beat the heat. So we didn't see anyone on our whole walk that day.
No, there's no cell signal.
No
either.
cell signal. So you got to use your common sense as well too, because breaking down out there for some reason or doing some damage to my chair or to Dee trying to help navigate me through would be I don't want to call the air ambulance, and I don't think they want to come either to airlift me out of a trail, chair and all.
Are there some other hikes in Nova Scotia or anywhere that you guys have done that are a good story?
Well, we went to what is that called? Blomidon Provincial Park last weekend.
Yeah, last week.
And that was lovely. That was a surprise trail that we were able to do. We went there not expecting to do any hiking, but we just started a trail and we were able to keep going, and it was beautiful.
That's a provincial trail, so that's maintained by the provincial government there in Blomidon. So yeah, their trails were maintained pretty good. There were some grassy areas that were well mowed. Paths were fairly well maintained. The odd obstacle everywhere, but it was pretty good.
Yeah, and then other ones like we've done the what is that one in Cole Harbour?
Salt Marsh
Trail. We've done the multi-use trail that Kevin was talking about, the Chain of Lakes Trail.
We have a trail right in our backyard in Clayton Park here, a linear trail that have offshoots right here in the Clayton Park area. So those are all well-packed gravel, and kind of sometimes it can be a shortcut to walk places, but there's a linear trail with offshoots off that. So we've gone there. That's been in our backyard since we lived here. So we utilize that a fair amount to get outside. And
Crystal Crescent,
that's right. Pretty much anywhere we can try to go. I mean, and we're running out of local areas, so we need more ideas. So if anyone has ideas, please send us our way so we can, because we don't know, and we're learning so much about Nova Scotia and what it has to offer with hiking, beaches. So if you know of a place that you think might work, let us know.
I'd like to get you down to Digby on some of our trails. We have one in the Acacia Valley Trail, which it was built in the 90s actually by a volunteer group to be wheelchair accessible. And actually that trail group just won a $1,500 award, and they're going to try to build a new platform. These platforms are designed to get you right over the water, with the idea that you could fish from the platform.
Very
Oh,
awesome.
nice.
And there's a small waterfall there, not as big as the one you saw at Victoria Park, but it's still a waterfall.
It's not necessarily the size of the waterfall, it's how you do go getting there. That's what we really do. I mean, so yeah, though platforms are nice. We love those where we can get right down where the action together. So that sounds neat.
Janet's coming in. I wonder if she has something to say.
Yeah, I have a question, and this is kind of a hard question, maybe controversial, but I heard a news story fairly recently that kind of made me think about accessibility and trails and natural areas. And it was about Grossmorn Park, and there is their Western Brook Pond is, I guess, the sort of the money shot, right? Like it's this, this lake, and you can hike in and get a ferry across the lake, and it's supposed to be beautiful, stunning. And apparently Parks Canada had redone the trail and made it quite wide, very straight, so that more people could actually get to that spot. Well, there are a fair number of former staff and community people and hikers who felt that what they had created was essentially this highway to that look off, and it kind of ruined what had been the trail there. And admittedly, it hadn't been or it hadn't been accessible to any great degree. And so, you know, there's this push and pull. You know, should every, you know, I'm assuming it would be impossible to make every trail accessible. Should every trail and every cool site and natural wonder be accessible? And it would just be interesting to hear your take on that.
Well, it's not different than anything else in the world when you're dealing with accessibility, whether it's trails, beaches, housing. There's some places that you just cannot make accessible. I think the disabled community realizes that and are okay with it in general because it's realistic. However, when it comes to like things like that, or that example that you said, I mean, it probably is controversial, but inclusiveness is so important for everybody. And what do you draw upon? Like, do you allow more people to do it, or is just the privileged folks who can do it the normal way or a traditional way, are they the only ones that have access to that park? So you have to kind of weigh, and I think it's a very easy argument to win over if you showcase it the right way. Like an experience here, our experience is what value it brings to our lives emotionally, physically, mentally, to be able to do these things, and the payoff on that at the end of the day. So I think that would be just an education piece, maybe. What do you think, Dee?
Yeah, and I think it's like, we don't expect, or I don't think ever want, you know, a trail to get blasted to bits, to be completely leveled, just so that it's, you know, flat or to code or whatever. But I mean, I think it's the trails kind of that get to us where it's something that could so easily be accessible if it were adapted. And I don't know that trail to comment on it, but
like one example we have is the Skyline Trail.
Yeah.
It's very controversial for us because we've been there. I've been there 3 times. You hike in 6 kilometers or whatever it is, and you get to the end of the big viewing platform, and as Dee will show here, you end up not being able to go to the viewing platform if you're in a wheelchair or can't maneuver stairs. And that's pretty sad, actually, nowadays, that you can go all the way there and they put all that work and effort, but you can look.
So sorry, I'm slow on the screen share. All right, here's the screen share. All
so
right.
You can kind of see that's the end of the trail if you've not been there. But then in behind us, there's 1 step and then 3 more steps and then a pathway down to the beautiful viewing area that you see in all the tourist. So I was never able to see that, and really upsets me because this is a national park and national federal accessibility should have taken this into consideration. The first time I did it in 2017, I actually contacted Parks Canada to ask them why. Really never got anywhere. They didn't seem to make it a priority, obviously, because we've been back in 2020 and it's still the exact same way it was before. And I can't be the only one that, I mean, there'd be other people, like you said, that could go there that might not be able to maneuver stairs.
Well, and our friend went there with his girlfriend, and he uses a manual chair, and his girlfriend was showing me she had bruises all up her whole arms because they hiked that trail, and they were determined to get down to get a good photo, and so she had to bounce him up every stair back up to the top afterwards. So yeah, we know that it's not just we want the trail for us, it's that this is a huge iconic view in Nova Scotia that you know, I think should be accessible to anyone, because it's a platform with stairs built on it. That's the barrier. It's not like a natural hill or something that requires a staircase to go up it. You can literally, like, you could go around to either side of this and not go up and down the platform, and you would have a perfect view. Like, yeah, so it's things like that, I think, that where you can tell that it's just that nobody thought about it or thought that it was important.
Or just don't think that people like my situation might even venture to get there. But if they say, if you build it, they will come, and we will come if you build it.
Mm-hmm.
I read the guidelines for accessible trail building in Ontario today, just to get, I was trying to find Parks Canada's, theirs seemed a little vague, but then I realized it's actually intentionally written vague. And in Ontario, they have very little standards, but what they say is they have a requirement to consult with the disabled community, just to ask a simple question like, how could we do this better? So again, like you said, Dee, it's not a matter of being mad at the roots or the steep cliff. It's the human-made things that could be made a little smarter just by simply asking the question, like, how could we do this better? How would it make it easier for you? Is there a simple way to do it? And you get an answer.
And I think that's the way things are going in this world now, with First Voice asking end users, primary users, what their opinion is, because oftentimes it will save money because the ideas are very simple and practical and doable. And so, yeah, I think that's one of the key things for making change is to consult with the users that will be using.
And I think there's a big misconception that people who want trails to be accessible or anything to be accessible want it to be done a very certain way. Like, I think that in general, society has a very rigid view of accessibility, and they don't think that, like, maybe even though the trail is made of gravel, but there's stairs, oh, well, it doesn't matter because the trail is gravel, it's not paved, so why bother putting in a ramp instead of 3 steps or something like that. I think that, you know, I think that there's a spectrum of different accessibility needs and features that can work for different people. And sure, it would be great if things were universally accessible, but
and I think that can be individualized on different hikes, because each hike has its own special thing that draws people there. So some might be able to be doable, and maybe the plan will be, okay, well, if there is a waterfall, let's make a platform at the end if people can get there, so people can get that full experience, get the picture, get close, get the feeling. But some other park might be just all hilly that and say, okay, that's just not doable. And I don't think, but if there's options available, the problem is when there's no options.
Right.
Little options. And I think we're very lucky in Nova Scotia here that this is important to people. And I do see change. Like I see change happening when it comes to accessibility in all realms of things. And it's very, very exciting. A lot of hard work and advocacy work has gone by many people to make our environment more inclusive for everybody.
Awesome. Now, we have some really quick, snappy questions. So you guys can decide who's going to answer each one as we go.
Oh, no, it's not the dating game where I have to go in another room and, and then you ask her the question, I got to come out and answer it the same way.
Normally we're interviewing one person. This is fun that we're interviewing two.
Okay.
And I'm going to read the questions as we've written them, because maybe I didn't give a whole lot of thought to these, that not every, you know, I wasn't writing this when we first came up with these questions, thinking about disabled hikers. So a couple of them might sound funny, but we'll just roll with them.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I like it.
Okay. Something that comes with you on every hike. I mean, there's an obvious answer, but maybe there's some other ones.
Yeah.
Comes as a, well, a lot of times it's our camera because we're usually
that's what I was
vlogging.
gonna say.
Yeah. Oh, look, we won. We got the same answer. Yes. Ooh, yeah, cameras
and snacks. I get very hangry if I don't have mid-hike snacks.
And we always try to have water. Like, we're very responsible hikers because we know. So I'm my own Sherpa. So you can hang a lot of stuff off my chair. We can take the whole kit and caboodle. I've got my snacks, all water. Snacks. Yeah. I mean, small children. No.
So if you come to Digby and I'm hungry, I know where to go.
That's right. Yeah. But don't mix the treats with the dog treats, because I always have dog treats on board as well, because we never really talk about that, but we really meet a lot of dogs on parks too that we love. We love being outdoors and not just meeting people, but meeting dogs and interacting. And people love socializing their dogs with a wheelchair because everyone wants their dog to be comfortable.
Right. Yeah. Next question. Favorite or go-to piece of hiking clothing?
Oh my gosh. Whew. I would say layers. I get cold or warm very easily depending on the temperature because of my spinal cord injury. So if it's cooler out, I always like to have a nice base layer and another layer just so you can peel off. We learned that from sailing as well. It's easier to peel off clothing than try to warm up afterwards. So yeah. I would say some layers. I don't have to say shoes because they don't really make a difference to me, but
I was going to say shoes. Yeah, I am known to go hiking in my Birkenstocks though. So yes. Either Birkenstocks or my sneakers.
Yeah, sneakers it should be. But yeah, I always wear my sneakers when I'm hiking.
That's question number 3. What do you wear on your feet? So Birkenstocks is a surprise answer.
Yeah, so that's my first choice.
And the blisters are not a surprise the next day, Jonathan. The blisters are not a surprise the next day.
Maybe we've covered this. Your latest hike in Nova Scotia? Your most recent hike?
I would say our real one that's outside the norm would be the Blomidon one
Yeah.
that we did last week. We went on a nice little Blomidon trail. Remember what it was called? Do you had a name? Was it the
Well,
Jodari Trail?
Yeah, maybe. There's 2 trails. Oh,
Yeah, and we were able to
we
get up.
followed along kind of the edge of the water. It was beautiful.
Your personal favorite place to hike in Nova Scotia?
Haven't found it yet.
Mm.
I still want to explore. I don't know.
Patient man.
I think I just want to see more. I'm excited about seeing what's offered down in Digby Way because it's not really a way we've gone down and explored that area in Kedgie. So yeah. So I think, I mean, obviously the skyline is really nice for us because we can get really far and it's just, I mean, the scenery, the wildlife, all those things. Yeah, so that would probably be my favorite. What do you think, Dee?
Yeah, I agree with that answer.
But we're looking to explore many more.
Next one's a little funny. If you could hike with anyone, any time period ever, who would that be and where would you go?
Oh my gosh. I should have studied for this test, I think.
Yeah, tough questions.
Oh, okay. And who would you take with you?
Yeah.
So Janet mentioned it earlier, but Grossmore is somewhere I'd like to go. And I never thought that would be a possibility because it's far away and didn't really know what the accessibility was. But more I research it, it'd be somewhere I'd really like to go. Who would I like to, Jonathan, I'd like to go with you.
Good answer.
I think I'd like to take you with me, Jonathan. You think you look like an experienced hiker and we could use you. And I haven't seen your biceps yet, but when we get stuck, maybe you could help get us out of some of those.
Well, my back's okay.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. So yeah, what about you, D? Who would you want?
I don't know.
I should have said D. That was the wrong answer,
No,
Jonathan.
I think I feel like it's a celebrity, isn't it?
Could be.
Oh, see, I'm trying to think of what celebrity. Oh, goodness. Who would I want to go hiking with? You know what would be fun is to go hiking with Kyle Lowry.
Yeah. In a basketball.
I think so. I think it would be a good time. I think it would be a good time. And, you know, I would love to go hike. Are we limited to Atlantic Canada? No, I assume not. I would like to go hike Whistler area.
Okay. With Kyle Lowry.
With Kyle Lowry. There you go.
Interesting answer.
He makes $30 million a year. I can't keep up with that, baby. I can't keep up with that. Don't make it your own trail, D.
So are you guys detailed planners or spontaneous wanderers?
I'm definitely a detailed planner. When we go hiking, for example, I always like to have plan A and plan B. So if plan A fails, we already have a plan B figured out.
I'm probably more the spontaneous, but it mashes together. I was like, well, let's try this or go here, and she'll go research it out, or we both will, or whatever, and then come to a decision. But we're definitely pre-planners with our traveling that we do too, like all of our traveling that we've done since we've been together. You have to pre-plan for that as well to make sure got the appropriate accommodations, to like where you're going, make sure it's accessible, transportation. So we're used to doing that in our everyday lives. So
how do you keep from getting lost when you're hiking? Or do you?
I have a good internal GPS.
Much better than mine.
And like, I think we also have our phones, so we definitely use that to our advantage.
I guess we haven't had the chance to venture off too far where you could possibly get lost. I probably get lost more in Point Pleasant Park than I do anywhere else. Some of the side trails you get turned around in there because you kind of lose your sense of where you are. But but I don't know.
Yeah.
What's in your thermos?
Water for me.
And iced coffee for me.
Okay, nothing else?
Yeah.
Oh, the often Gatorade. We often have a Gatorade or something so that when I start losing it and go dehydrate, she can fill me with some electrolytes. So
your favorite trail snack?
Potato chips.
I'd go for the granola bar.
I'm a potato chip guy. I don't know why potato chips.
Is it plain potato or is it dill pickle?
It's kettle cooked, Miss Vicky's. Plain potato chips. That's a plug for Miss Vicky's. That's what I want. That's all I want with a nice glass of water. And maybe a little piece of chocolate to chase it.
Okay, Jonathan, you have to ask the chocolate covered question.
I have the next question. This is for Janet. I have to ask this. This is our last one. Yogurt covered raisins or chocolate covered almonds?
Oh, definitely the chocolate covered almonds for me.
Hands down.
Yeah.
Right answer. There you go.
There's no protein in yogurt, I don't think.
Well, it's milk, isn't it? There's some
Yeah.
It's
It
milk,
is
yeah, I
milk.
guess a little bit, yeah, but nuts are what all the really experienced trail people use, isn't it? They eat a lot of nuts and grain.
Okay. Listen, I've loved talking to you guys tonight, and I love following you. We haven't mentioned, but if people want to follow you, it's Accessible Adventures on Instagram, and it's the same thing on YouTube. They can get more of your joy and smiles on there, and see more of what you guys have been up to. You guys have any final words for the recording?
Well, we've got some cool stuff coming up. So if you do check out our channel, we got a few partnerships that we're working on and things that are some exciting things. So stay tuned, and we love sharing what we do in our everyday life so we can educate and show people what's possible.
Awesome. And I do hope to get you guys to come visit the Digby area. You'll see our lighthouses, and we have a few accessible trails that I think you'll love.
Love it.
Can't wait.
Can't wait.
And thank you so much on behalf of Hike Nova Scotia for spending time with us. And we will be sharing this recording. It was too fun and too informative and too important to keep to ourselves. So we're going to get it out there because I think the message you have, everyone needs to hear. So thanks again.
And thanks, Heather, for joining. I know Heather's there, but thanks, Heather, for taking the time to listen to us.
Oh, yes. Heather, actually, do you have a chance can you unmute?
Or
Oh, here, I can ask her to unmute. I think one of us has to do it here.
I just did that too.
Oh shoot, we may have done it at the same time you do it.
Oh, I'm thinking she's unable to.
Okay, that's all right.
All right, Jonathan, thank you so much for thinking of us and including us, and we'll continue to share our hiking adventures throughout the rest of the summer or rest of the fall, and who knows we'll get up to in the winter. We still have to figure out how we're going to get around in the snow.
okay.
That'll be fun.
I'll be in touch.
Great. Well, thank you.
Take care. See ya.
Bye.